Meeting number 3 to order. This is February 1st, 2016. It's 5:30 p.m. in the Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers. I'm going to ask, Andrew, would you please come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Would you all please stand and join us as well?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro. Okay, Kathleen, can we get a roll call, please?
McCampbell.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Wilson. Here. Davidson.
Here.
Fleming.
Here. Okay. First on the agenda tonight, we have 2 Mears Awards, and I think these are 2 Mears Awards that nobody is going to have any conflict with me giving out, because I think it says a lot about where we have come from and the direction that the city is going in. So I'm really excited to give these out tonight. This first one, be it known, on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I'd like to thank you for being a model Burlingtonian. Your positive attitude, commitment to your job, and your fiscal financial responsibility help make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. On February 1st, 2016, this Mayor's Award is presented to Annette Crowner. Would you please come forward? I just want you to know that it was my idea that you get hired on. But we certainly do appreciate you and all the hard work. I'd like to get a picture taken with you, if you don't mind.
All right. Thank you. Oh, here, do I need to? Sure. Very good.
All right. And if you don't mind, would you have a word, please?
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot.
Yes.
No, I love to work here, and it's been a great place, and this sounds really loud.
It's a new microphone.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm happy to see the direction we're heading, and that we continue that direction, and that you guys have been doing a great job in leading us down the direction, along with Jim, so.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. The other half of the tandem tag team that has, one of the articles I read, and I cut it out and I kept it, is an article about our squeaky clean audit and our financial report. And the other half of the team that has helped bring that to fruition is here tonight. I want to present her as well with the Mayor's Award. She has done a heck of a lot of work, and we certainly appreciate it. Be it known that on behalf of the city of Burlington, Iowa, I would like to thank you for being a model Burlingtonian. Your positive attitude, commitment to your job, and your fiscal financial responsibility help make Burlington a great place to live, work, and play. On February 1st, 2016, this Mayor's Award is presented to Stephanie Stucker. Would you please come?
Well, I appreciate this, and what Annette said, I think you guys are doing a great job leading us in the right direction, and it's a privilege to work here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know I can't take credit for this, but it's always fun to see 2 of my former students doing so well. Thank you, ladies.
That was nice. All right. Next on the agenda tonight is the consent agenda. All matters listed under item 1 consent agenda having been discussed are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items, and if a discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. On the consent agenda tonight, we have miscellaneous, finances and miscellaneous, minutes of previous meetings, and payroll and city claims. Beer, liquor, wine, and cigarettes, reports, and bonds. We have 3 resolutions. The first resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. The second is a resolution approving final acceptance, final payment, and release of retention monies for the 2015 HMA resurfacing project. The third is a resolution to establish a new fee and charge schedule at the Burlington Recplex. We also have 5 public hearings set for February 16th. The first is consideration of a sale of property locally known as 1417 Toll Street with conditions, City of Burlington, Des Moines County, Iowa. The second is consideration of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of South 14th Street right-of-way located adjacent to 1800, 1802, and 1804 South 15th Street and adjacent to 1408 Harrison Avenue, Burlington, Iowa. The third is a consideration of an ordinance vacating and selling a portion of the alley right-of-way located south of 1325 Iowa Street, Burlington, Iowa. The fourth is a consideration of a resolution authorizing a permanent encroachment agreement with Hope Haven Area Development Center for encroachment into city right-of-way at 617 Jefferson Street, Burlington, Iowa. And the fifth is a consideration of a resolution adopting the Des Moines County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And Mayor Pro Tem Davidson, we also have 2 appointments.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the City Planning Commission, we want to thank Larry Williams for his time that he spent there. His term has expired this week.
Thank you, sir.
And so Becky Anderson is asked to be considered for that. And the Low Rent Housing Agency, Melissa Foster and Lisa Miner, have volunteered to be on the Low Rent Housing Agency Board. So we thank them for their service, too.
Is there anyone from the audience that would like to have any of the items removed from the consent agenda? Okay, I see none. Council?
I would like to remove resolution number 1, approving nuisance abatements for various properties.
Second.
Okay. Any other items?
Didn't second it.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have a motion to approve all listed under item 1 consent agenda.
Second?
Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye. Okay. Next on the agenda is rezoning. This is the time set for hearing for consideration of an ordinance rezoning the property locally known as 509 Melrose Court from R2 Single Family Residential to C2 General Commercial Zoning District. Publication has been made in the Hawkeye as prescribed by law. Mr. Tisland.
We've had a request from Hy-Vee to rezone the property at 509 Melrose Court, which is currently zoned R2 Single Family Residential. They own the property and the business directly to the east, which is Zone C2 General Commercial. Looking at the zoning map, also have property to the south, Zone C1 Limited Commercial and R4 Multifamily Residential. They've made this request in order to expand their operation there by adding a gas station and car wash on this site. This site has been used for institutional type uses in the past. We don't have a separate zoning classification for that, but a school, Head Start program, different uses over the years. And again, Hy-Vee is requested to rezone in order to expand their operations. This did go to the Planning Commission on December 15th. Regarding the rezoning, they made a recommendation with a 6-0 vote with 1 abstain to recommend approval of the requested rezoning to the City Council with conditions. 40-foot wide landscape buffer located on the east side of the property along Melrose Court. A maximum of 1 access point to this lot allowed off of Melrose Court, subject to staff approval, and the future land use map be amended from low-density residential to commercial. They approved the request based on the application of the applicant, eliminating or minimizing the impact on the neighborhood through the requirement of the conditions, specifically the landscape buffer and the limiting the access onto Melrose Court, and the existing and historic land use being institutional and the difficulty in reuse and redevelopment of former school sites. Show a proposed plan at this time for the site. As well, with the existing Hy-Vee located to the west of the site, this being the former Head Start, the 509 Melrose Court site with the gas station, and then a car wash just to the north of that. Additional access off the curb cut on Agency Street, and 1 additional access on the southern end of Melrose Court. A couple of notes are the landscape buffer along Melrose Court. There are some residences to the north, and I think the first resident is approximately right here from a single-family standpoint. With the car wash, the flow would go from east to west, so any noise that was of concern would be minimized by any blowers or dryers being on the west side of the car wash there. Additional feature would be realigning the parking lot for the existing Hy-Vee, eliminating the gas station in that area, allowing better traffic flow, and aligning the driveway with that enters Aldi, so there's not the offset driveways on Agency Street. So with that, if you have any other questions I can try and answer, or there are representatives from Hy-Vee here as well.
Is there anybody from the audience that has any questions or concerns regarding this ordinance? Anybody from Hy-Vee that?
Hi, my name is Casey Bonzer. My address is 5820 West Town Parkway, West Des Moines, Iowa 50266. And I am from Hy-Vee, Director of Real Estate. And as Eric stated, we are looking to redevelop this adjacent parcel. We are supportive of the conditions that were imposed and would agree and appreciate working with staff and Eric on this, on the landscape buffer, and then the one access point on Melrose. So are there any other questions that I can answer?
Not from me, Casey, thank you. Thank you for
Great,
coming
thank you.
down.
Good move. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, I think it's good that the layout, you know, with the blowers facing towards Hy-Vee, because I know of some another car wash where the blowers are facing towards the residents, and it is kind of loud, but I think with the setup, it'll work well. I think it'll be nice to have that all look like that.
Anybody else?
I like the idea of moving the gas station, because it sure is congested. I don't know how you don't have more accidents there than you.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it just works well with our plans all the way around, so, yeah, I'm excited about that as well, so.
Motion to close, Your Honor?
Second?
Moved in second, Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Your Honor, I have a motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading of an ordinance rezoning the property locally known as 509 Melrose Court from R2 Single Family Residential to C2 General Commercial Zoning District.
Second,
Second?
Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye. Okay, ayes have it. Good deal. Okay, next. This is the time set for hearing for consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance number 3166 and ordinance number 3105 by eliminating the requirements for a landscape buffer. Publication's been made in the hot as prescribed by the law.
And this is somewhat of a continuation of the previous ordinance. As part of the rezoning originally for Hy-Vee, this is an older plan showing one of the original Hy-Vees and then the current one sits in this location here when they constructed. As you can see, all this property was R2 at the time. When they rezoned Hy-Vee, the current one to C2, they placed a landscape buffer along the east side, with this being the head start. So that ordinance was 3105, and they subsequently amended it in ordinance 3166. But those ordinances place this landscape buffer, as we see today, on the east side of the parking lot as a requirement of the zoning for Hy-Vee. With this rezoning just before you, this essentially would move that landscape buffer to Melrose Court and allow them to expand their parking lot here on the east side of the Hy-Vee property. So again, this went to the Planning Commission and as part of the previous request and voted 6-0 to recommend approval with one abstain based on the expansion of the parking lot and that requirement for a landscape buffer be placed on the rezoning of that property at 3105, or at 509 Melrose Court. So essentially, it's just moving this existing landscape buffer to the east along Melrose Court.
Good deal. Is there anybody from the audience that has any questions regarding this ordinance? Okay, I see none. Council?
No.
Good.
Okay. Kathleen? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a motion to close.
Second that motion. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Scott.
No, it's fine.
Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye. Your Honor, I have a motion for preliminary adoption of the first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 3166 and ordinance number 3105 by eliminating the requirements for a landscape buffer.
Second.
Moved in second, Kathleen.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Okay, good deal. This is time set for hearing for consideration of plans and specifications for the 2016 HMA resurfacing of Memorial Park Road and Plank Road project in the city of Burlington, Iowa. Publication has been made in the hot guide as well. Thank you guys for coming.
Mayor and City Council, wow, this echoes.
You're not used to that, are you?
No. What we have before you is the public hearing and then approving the plans and specs and a memorandum of understanding for a joint project between the city and Des Moines County for Memorial Park Road and Plank Road on the kind of northwest edges of Burlington. The cost for this and the city's share are going to come out of our annual HMA project fund. The one we had last week had the blue and the pink kind of separating the two, but essentially as you're going out Memorial Park Road, those initial homes are in the city. So the ones that, there's some areas where you have city on one side and county on the other, and that initial up in the northwest is city inside that boundary. And then from there on out, it's all county. And then that initial part right there in that beginning triangle part of Sunnyside Park Road, that's all city. And then we share it as we head west on Park Road, Plank Road there.
Is there anybody from, do you have anything else you need to?
I do not.
Okay, good. Is there anybody from the audience that has any questions? Okay, I see none. Council?
Steve, did you find out any additional information on that sinkhole? Was that?
Ryan and I went out and looked at that today. It's not, we kind of need to monitor it. It isn't, we didn't consider it serious as we sit here today, but I think it's something we should monitor. So it is kind of deep compared to all the, for what little drainage is going through that area. There's some kind of a utility in there that's got a conduit that's kind of hanging over the ditch. So it is some things to be concerned of, but then we may need to have to, I think right now we're going to just look at it, and if it gets worse, have to address it. But like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of drainage coming down that area. So for what little water we saw, something's happened to cause that one bank along the roadway to kind of slough off a little.
So if you, not far from there, if you go back in I think it's on Northern, if you go back in there, there's a lot of old sinkholes back in there, and they may be related. There's cavern or something back in there.
Okay.
That's obvious, but nothing near
At this
roadways.
time, like I said, we're going to look at monitoring it, continue to monitor it. We talked to Chris a little bit. He was out there several years ago as well. He's going to see if it's gotten a lot worse over the last year or so.
Okay.
But if it looks like it definitely needs more attention, we'll have to kind of stabilize it better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, can I get a motion now?
Your Honor, a motion to close?
Second.
Kathleen?
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
I have a resolution approving plans and specifications for the 2016 HMA resurfacing of Memorial Park Road and Plank Road project in the city of Burlington, Iowa.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Kathleen? Take it away.
McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
I have a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Des Moines County Secondary Roads, and the city of and the city of Burlington for the resurfacing of Memorial Park Road and Plank Road.
Second?
Moved in second. Kathleen, can we get a vote?
Okay. McCampbell.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, Your Honor, I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the acceptance of the offer for city bridge funding.
Second.
Mayor and City Council, we were most recently notified that the Mount Pleasant Street Bridge has been approved for the DOT bridge funding program. We can get up to $1 million on an 80/20. City manager also informed you, I think when we talked about the discussion session last week, that cost has gone up. The total estimated cost now is a little over $5 million. So, but what we have to do now is, if we want to accept this money, we have to send a letter back to which is what you're approving, a letter back to the IDOT saying you're interested in accepting their money up to $1 million. We can begin that project, I believe, after October 16th of this year. So, I mean, we can officially start drawing money off that project.
Tentative timeframe for the project, go up for RFQ for engineering services yet this spring.
Right.
Hopefully begin design work after selection of an engineering firm, late summer, early fall, with the goal of getting plans and specs out next summer.
For next year's construction season.
Yeah, and just speaking with Ryan, I think that he mentioned last time that would probably be the latter half of the construction cycle next year.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody from the audience that has any questions? What an exciting audience tonight.
That's Spring Street, right? Mount Pleasant?
Yes.
Okay, audience is satisfied? Council?
Can you speak to how that's going to be paid for? And how do we arrive at the $5 million? Do we know that's semi-solid or?
Ryan talked to an engineering firm that does a lot of bridges across the state to get an estimate. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we actually had old numbers and that have kind of been on the books for a while. And when Ryan got to talk to the engineering firm, he estimated that cost per square foot has gone up quite a bit. There's some concerns. It's at the higher end of that construction range, just because you're in part dealing with the railroad, and that usually adds a lot of complication and can add a lot of expense in trying to put a bridge over the railroad. So what he did is put together what we think hopefully is a conservative estimate. That would be the cost. It is going to go back down to a 2-lane bridge, and right now it's kind of planned to have 2 5-foot sidewalks on each side. I know we're going to have to kind of look at the numbers. Don't necessarily reflect a complete streets design, so we're going to have to kind of evaluate all that as we get closer into the final design stage.
Given that we have done no design work on this, this is truly a ballpark. The engineering firm that Ryan talked to discussed a figure, if you were doing just a normal bridge, $120 to $150 a square foot. This cost estimate is based off of $180 a square foot. Looking at those, just trying to put some level of an estimate to what could be an inflated cost because of the railroad and the buildings on each side. So this is really a preliminary number, and just really designed having an engineering firm coming out and saying this is probably a better estimate, but it's still just an estimate.
Well, I'm glad at least we went high.
And then how is it being paid for?
And the way to cover outside of the $1 million, or proposal would be for the rest of that through the TIF funds. This is within the TIF area, is eligible to have TIF funding used for it, and that's how it was built into the capital improvement plan that's been presented to you. There's adequate room within TIF funding to cover a project of this magnitude. There's still, technically, there's room to cover all of the projects that have been listed within the CIP, and still have flexibility for consideration of a couple of other projects, or releasing value over the course of this next year.
So it's not expanding the TIF area in order to make this work?
No.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, council? Okay. Kathleen?
Campbell,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming.
Okay. Now to the item removed.
Yes. Resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties.
Second.
I motion to remove abatement number T-102 from the resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties.
Second.
This property, Pamela Linton, had a ash tree removed from her property. She was sent notice and unfortunately just didn't follow up with the city in time. She'd like to pay directly, have planned to pay directly to the city instead of having a lien on her, tax lien on her property. And so we'd like to try and work with her on that so it didn't go as a lien against her taxes. And she said she'd be willing to pay the city and hopefully do that in a short time frame. But she'd asked if that could be removed instead of going against her taxes, so.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm always glad to see, hear about, which I do hear quite a bit, about where the city's trying to work with people, and I have no problem with this one as well. Council?
I'm good.
You guys good? Yeah. Anybody from the audience? Man, what a lovely audience tonight. Even John, even John. All right, Kathleen.
Okay, this is just removing the item first.
Okay.
McCampbell?
Aye?
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
And then as amended, Campbell?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
Okay, very well. Okay, at this time, we will entertain comments from the audience. If there's anybody from the audience that has any questions or concerns, this is your opportunity. Is there one? All right, everybody's beating each other up to get to the front of here. God bless you. Okay, I don't see anybody. All righty, thank you. Mr. Teslin, do you have any closing comments? Councilwoman Wilson, do you have any closing comments?
I do not, thank you.
Councilman Scott?
Tonight's the chance for Iowa to shine. Exercise your rights. If you have the time, go to the caucuses.
Okay. I don't have any closing comments, just good to see Mr. Williams. Good to see the Boy Scouts here tonight. We sure appreciate you guys coming, and I do want to throw this out there that if there's ever a Boy Scout here, and I don't know if you don't have your shirt on, make sure you let me know before the meeting starts. We'll give you a chance to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance as well. So we appreciate you guys coming tonight. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you, Boy Scout. Did you say it was Troop 40? Is that what you said? Yeah, welcome, guys. And that'll be your next thing in your government lesson, is go to a caucus and find out what goes on. Maybe you could, on your way home, just stop by, yeah. So, thanks for coming, and thanks, Council. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
I have nothing at this time.
But you reserve the right.
I reserve the right to
Yes, sir.
comment at a later date.
Yes, sir. City Manager, any closing comments?
Budget meeting tomorrow night, 3:30?
Yeah, I can hardly wait.
So we'll see what your thoughts are, and that's designed however much time you're gonna need to have some discussions, whether that tomorrow night session, if you need to have another one, you'll have the opportunity to set some more. But we are running up on some fairly tight guidelines. The goal from Stephanie would be that we'd be at the March, or the February 16 meeting, 15? 8? February 8 meeting, we'll be setting a public hearing.
Oh, no, that's the work session.
Yeah, so the 15th, will be 16th, we'll be setting the public hearing for the first meeting in March. With that in mind, we have not quite, right about a week to try to finalize what we're doing. Hopefully, we can come to some level of consensus in that kind of time frame. But if you're gonna need more meetings to do that, we'll have to see what your flexibility is for getting those scheduled.
Okay, well, we're gonna do what we gotta do. That's all you got to close out? All righty.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn and go to the caucus.
Second.
Are you seconding go to the caucus as well, or just close out?
Just close out.
And you'll note that we did finish in plenty of time for people to get to where they need to go.
Right.
You betcha, you betcha. Again, thanks everybody for coming tonight. Kathleen?
McCampbell?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Fleming?
Aye.
Okay,
Good
this
work,
was adjourned.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Are you done with this, Robert?
Yes.
Thanks, guys.